Hi guys, welcome to Learn Electronics Repair. I have quite a few jobs at the moment I'm trying to complete, so these are things that have been waiting for parts mainly. I don't know whether I fully diagnosed the problem or not. We're going to find out. So this is the next one. We've seen this here several times. The original problem with this was that the woofer works but the tweeter doesn't. So this is a bi-amplified active speaker. It has two amplifiers on here. This is the woofer amplifier, this is the tweeter amplifier. So in the original video, I diagnosed the problem to be with the IC. All the voltages looked okay. It just didn't work and it was all getting very hot anyway in this area. I then replaced the IC, but it still doesn't work. It doesn't glow like a light bulb anymore. It still doesn't work. And this capacitor tagged on here, I used to connect my signal generator, audio signal generator here, sine wave, and the amplifier actually works. I then tried to trace the problem back. I have no schematics with this. Some of these chips are getting quite warm, but eventually I think I proved that isn't actually a fault. I then decided to unsolder the two ICs from here and here. So these are BA4560 dual op amps. And this one is an LM393 comparator. Now you'll see that the PCB was damaged at this point because these chips are actually glued. This is glue, and the bottom of the ICs were covered in glue. Both of them, I couldn't get them to free. When eventually I got enough heat in to get the chips to come off, the board had been damaged. Not quite so bad with this one. And if you look, you'll see on here that every single component is held on with this hard epoxy resin, even the little resistors and capacitors. Okay, so I then tested the two op amps and found that this one is actually faulty on one of the two. So it's a dual op amp. One channel, if you like, was working, or rather one op amp, the other one wasn't working. This one was working on both. And although I don't have the schematic, I think that this is where the signal comes into this amplifier. I haven't really been able to trace it exactly. And this one is where the signal goes into this amplifier. So effectively, these pass the high frequencies this way and the low frequencies that way. Okay, so I've ordered replacement chips. Now I know that during the repair attempt, or rather the desoldering attempt, the wire here was broken. Okay, you can see clear through the hole. In fact, on it you can clearly see through there. It's like a fracture in the PCB here, if you like. Fortunately, this PCB doesn't have any internal layers, and I can get a thin bit of wire through there, so I can actually fix that. This little capacitor I thought might be damaged, but now I think it's just the glue that's effectively making it look that way. Okay, these tracks, we know these are okay, and the damage around here is not so bad, nor is it over here. This is just glue, the horrible stuff. That track is fine. I tested them. It's just glue on the top of the track, just there. You can see how hard it is to actually get the stuff to come off. Okay, so while these chips were removed, I also tested all the resistors and circuits, and I found that some of the ones that say 105, these are 1 meg resistors, are actually faulty. So what we need to do now is to just find those faulty resistors, replace them, fix the problem with the wire here. I'll just check this, but I'm pretty sure that is okay. It looks okay, the same. We'll just have a look here to see what's under this. I think it's okay. And then we'll replace the chips and see if this one now works, okay? So we run resistance range. Let's look again. The meter is zeroed. So there weren't any around here. There's one here. Well, that reads 730k. I mean, they can read less than the rated value in circuit. I'm sure some of these read open, completely open before. 520k. 520k. I'm certain some of these were reading open. 92k. $740k. Yeah, that was dropped below 1 meg. So I don't know what was happening there, guys. If you refer back to the previous video, you'll see that a lot of these read open. I even commented about it at the time. I think this is the only one that actually read like a resistor. Yeah, and that's just under 1 meg. That's very close to its actually rated value. So they're all reading fine now. Okay, I really don't know what was going on there. I just can't get my head around that. Let's just look at this little bit of circuit here. What do we have? Well, I have it under the microscope now. We can see more clearly, I think. So it looks okay. I'm pretty sure this is one end, and then that goes to there. Yeah, reading 0 basically. Does that go to here as well? No, so that doesn't go to there, but let's just try and scrape that off. I'm not sure what's under here. Yeah, I have to say that doesn't actually go anywhere there on this track. It just looks like effectively where the glue was. As the glue's come off, it's taken a bit of the solder mask off with it. Okay, I'm going to replace these ICs. Let's get a little bit of solder on the end of the soldering iron. Just a touch. Don't need much. We go a little bit there. See if we can just hold this in place. I'm going to do it left-handed. Just because of the direction the board's in. Okay, get enough heat onto that. Okay, so we have 1 pin, 2 pins. Okay, I'll just make sure it's flat. Yep, that's flat against the board. So that's pretty well lined up actually, yeah, okay. Let's do the other pins. Soldering these is generally easier than desoldering them, I find. Yeah. It's, as I've said before, the flux that basically allows me to do this. I have enough solder on the tape. Okay. Next. So I'll fit the chip and then I'll sort out that problem with the wire afterwards. Okay. I can clearly see where it goes to. If you like, you can leave a bit of solder on one of the pads and then slide the chip in. In fact, I'll show you that technique as well. Let's just do this one slightly different. So this is another way you can do it. We put a bit of solder on one pad. Doesn't really matter which one, but one of the corners is your best bet. Okay, take the chip. This is a slightly wider package than the other one, but it's fine. I'm pretty sure this is the same as the original ones were. Now we can get our chip, hold it in place, and then we're going to melt this pad and slide it onto it. Okay? That's another way of doing them. You'll notice I can actually flex this very slightly now. Okay? And put a tiny bit more solder onto the tip. Push it down. flex it slightly. We have it. I'm happy enough with that. A little bit of fresh flux. If you've not seen the channel before, it's this one. Okay. NC559ASM. This is some sort of copy that I have. And the expiry date as well, out 2 years, but it's fine, yeah. Tiny bit more solder, okay. Looks good. We'll clean it up and just have a final check. It looks good. This one, well, that last technique worked nicely, so let's do the same again. I'll just clean off this old lead-free solder. Okay. Okay. A bit of fresh. I prefer to work with leaded solder. Whoever invented lead-free solder never actually does any soldering, that is for certain. Again, because of the direction of the board, I'm going to come in left-handed. So I'm right-handed, but you know, I'm sort of okay. You become quite ambidextrous when you do this sort of work for a few years, I'll tell you. You find that your hands become much more evenly balanced in their abilities. Okay. Yeah, technique's working nice enough. Touch more solder. Should be enough on there now to do the rest of these pins. Not quite, but almost. If you put too much, you'll just end up with a solder bridge, but they're easy enough to deal with them. A bit more flux is going to help this, okay. You notice it wasn't just flowing nicely. You can never really put too much of this stuff on. Okay, once again. Tiny little bit of fresh solder. It's enough. That's going much nicer. Okay. Okay. Let's clean that up and have a look. That's interesting. This one 4560, and that looks like 4580, but I actually just bought a whole batch of these. Let me check with a few others. There should be 4560s. Well, they all look like 4560. I'm going to say that the printing is just a little bit blurred on that one. Let's add a little bit of that. Sometimes helps. That distinctly looks like 4580 to me. Yeah. I didn't really know there was such a thing. Yeah, I mean, it's the same pin out, and it says pin and function compatible with, included here, 4560. So I'm going to try it. Let's see what happens. But a little bit interested. I'm not quite sure how that got there. I'll just repair this broken wire before I do test this. So I think I should get a bit of wire through here. Yeah, and it goes, no problem. I don't think I need to go very far on the other side. Let's have a look. Yeah, that just goes over to here, so that's fine. Cross that way, okay. A little bit of flux again. Okay, bit of solder. I can probably get it to solder to that little bit there. You see where I've just caught that? And then just get us flat. Like so. Little spot here. Yep. And just cut that off. If I can get in here, otherwise I'll just use the edge of the knife. Or even this. Bit more. Okay, so soldered this side, yeah, and this side, job done. Okay, let's see what this does. I have the light bulb limiter over there, so that was sort of coming on and not completely going off. Oh, and we had some sound actually, so that's the woofer. That's getting much dimmer than it did before actually. Okay, so that's the woofer, and now I'm just switched it off. I can move this lead here, and I can connect the tweeter output to the same speaker. So we go there. Let's try it again. Yes. So my speakers are not like woofers and tweeters, they're just full range cabinets, and the speaker itself has a tiny little tweeter inside it. So that's why you didn't really hear anything much. But we do have output now on both woofer and tweeter. Okay, I'll have to see if I can just find a compression horn and keep it here just for testing things like this. I don't have the cabinet this came out of, but two things have happened here. One, that light bulb is much dimmer now. This was all getting very warm. It was on bright-ish. Well, not. I think we figured out it was drawing about sort of 12 watts or something like that, with no speakers attached, no audio basically. And now it's actually working. So guys, we've got this one fixed in the end. Sorry, I can't really test it exactly, but I'm sure you could hear that. So I'll give this one back to the guy, let him stick it in the actual cabinet it came out of, and I'm confident now it is actually working. Okay, a result at last, and this is one of my nemesises. Is that the plural of nemesis? I'm not quite sure, but what I am sure of, I have a few more I need to go and finish off. Okay, let's go try another one. But this one, I think we can say we have a result.